This is an IELTS speaking exam simulation. This is self-practice test number 1. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here are the instructions. And these instructions will be read before each practice test. Once you've heard these instructions and you go, for example, to practice test number 2 or 3, you can just fast forward or skip forward in the video and not have to hear the instructions again. However, I do read the instructions each time because some students might skip certain videos or skip certain practice tests. And so from a teaching perspective, I have to say the instructions every single time. But here are the instructions. Except for the initial opening questions, which everybody knows, they're same initial opening questions. Each speaking test has different questions. Some speaking tests will ask questions as if you study, others will ask questions as if you have a job. Whether you study or have a job, it's just good practice to go ahead and just answer the questions so you can just get more speaking practice. Make sure that you pause the video and read the instructions for each speaking part. On your screen, you'll see something that says part 1, and there'll be instructions on there. Just stop and make sure you review and understand the instructions. Number 4 is very important. For parts 1 and 3, you should cover your screen because on the real exam, you cannot see the questions. For part 2, it's okay to look at the screen. But if you really want to simulate the exam, on parts 1 and 3, cover your screen so you cannot see the questions that I'm asking. Remember, for part number 1, you want to speak in 2 to 3 sentences. Part number 2, you want to make sure you speak for the full 2 minutes addressing each point. And part 3, speak in 3 to 4 sentences for each question. For parts 1 and 3, I will ask a question and then I will pause for about 5 seconds before asking the next question. Of course, you cannot answer in 5 seconds. So what you're supposed to do is after I ask you the question, pause the video, state your answer, and then restart the video so you can hear the next question. For part number 2, I'll give you 1 minute to take notes and then give you 2 minutes to deliver your response. Again, do not look at the screen for parts 1 and 3. On the next screen, when the test begins, you should really record yourself. Recording yourself is a great tool to improve. One of the best applications is by Otter AI. You can see the website right here, but you want to record your entire speaking test. That way you can really listen to it again and do your own self-assessment of your work. If you record yourself, you can upload your recording into the Otter website so you can get a transcription of your speaking performance. Otter AI will give you up to 600 minutes of free transcription each month. Remember, simulate the real exam. Do not cheat yourself by looking at the questions in parts 1 and 3. Do not do that. All right, at the end of the speaking test, there are instructions on how to do your own self-assessment. Let's go ahead and get started. Part 1. I have a few questions to ask you related to yourself and your experiences. Please tell me your name, what do you study in university? In the future, would you like to study a new subject? Who advised you to study this subject? Let's move forward and talk about your hometown. Where is your hometown? Can you tell me something exciting about your hometown? Has your hometown changed much since you were a child? Let's move forward and talk about reading. Do you like to read? Where do you usually read? What can distract you from reading? Can you describe an instance when you were distracted while reading? Let's now talk about farming. How important is farming in your country? Do you visit farms often? How can we support farmers? Now let's talk a little bit about trees. Have you ever planted a tree? Did you enjoy the experience of planting trees? What type of trees do people plant in your hometown? Let's now move forward to part two, and you can now look at your screen again for part number two. Part two is the only part where you can see the question. You'll be given 1 minute to review the topic card on your screen and take notes. Afterwards, you will be given 2 minutes to give your response. Describe an important item that has been kept in your family for a long time. Please say, what is it? Why is it important? How long did you have it? Explain how you feel about it. You have 1 minute to take notes. Please stop. You now have 2 minutes to give your response, and you may begin speaking now. Okay, please stop. Time is up. We're now going to move forward to part 3. Remember, for part number 3, you want to cover your screen so you cannot see the questions. I will ask a question, pause for 5 seconds, then ask the next question. You must press the space bar and pause the video after I ask each question so you can answer. Once you finish answering the question, press the space bar and restart the video so you can hear the next question. Please be realistic to the exam. Let's start. Okay, I have a couple of follow-up questions for you about the topic of history. Do you think history is important? Some people say you can learn a lot from history. Do you agree? Next, is it possible to use technology to teach history to children? Finally, can history explain the present? Okay, so this is how you do a self-assessment. You want to listen to the recording of your self-test. Remember at the beginning I told you to record yourself. After each part 1, part 2, part 3, see where you land on the rubric in terms of fluency and coherence, pronunciation, grammar, lexical ability. This is something also that you can do if you have a study group. Like some students are in a study group of 2, 3, or 4 students, and you can kind of assess each other in doing this. Upload your recording to the Otter website so you can get a transcription of your speaking. You can really see your grammar, lexical. Also, it's great to be able to check your pronunciation, because if the Otter program is writing the wrong word, that probably means you did not pronounce it correctly. Make notes on areas where you need to improve. You can do this by creating a chart like you see here. In terms of your fluency and coherence, make comments about it. Lexical resource, make comments about it. Grammatical range, make your comments. Pronunciation, make your comments. This is really, really good to do because you're assessing yourself, seeing where you need to improve before you go ahead and move to the next practice test. Here's what the speaking rubric looks like. If you want to just review it for a little while, stop the video and take a look at it. Thank you so much for doing this first self-practice test. I wish you the best of luck, and I'll talk to you soon.